what I plan to do, so they're not at fault of what I've done. I am a really bad person. I have done terrible things that no one should ever do.
Teen killers often commit crimes so shocking, they leave entire communities reeling. In court, the raw emotion of their actions unfolds with tears, anger, and unforgettable confrontations as justice is served. From chilling confessions to desperate pleas, these moments reveal the human cost of unimaginable acts.
New tonight, the Local 4 defenders give us an inside look at the chilling plans detailed within the journal of the defendant in the Oxford school shooting, Ethan Crumbley.
Ethan Crumbley. On November 30th, 2021, Oxford High School in Michigan became the site of a devastating tragedy. 15-year-old Ethan Crumbley opened fire on his classmates, killing 4 students: Madison Baldwin, Tate Meyer, Hannah St. Juliana, and Justin Schilling.
Crumbley's appeal will bring all the attorneys together, those handling the appeal, and the Oakland County prosecutors. The shooter pled guilty to the murders of Oxford students Justin Schilling, Madison Baldwin, Hannah St. Juliana, and Tate Meyer,
and injuring 7 others, including a teacher. The attack left the tight-knit community in shock, struggling to comprehend how such violence could erupt in their suburban school. The chilling details of the crime revealed that Crumbley used a semi-automatic 9mm Sig Sauer handgun purchased by his father just days before the shooting. Crumbley had easy access to the weapon, which was stored unlocked in their home. His meticulous planning was evident through journal entries and videos he recorded on his phone, where he described his intent to kill. In one recording, made the night before the attack, he stated, "Tomorrow I will be the one to end lives." Investigators also uncovered alarming evidence of premeditation. Crumbley had drawn violent images and written about his disturbing fantasies on school worksheets, which were seen by his teachers. A meeting was held with his parents on the morning of the shooting, but they refused to remove him from school. Hours later, Crumbley carried out his deadly plan, targeting his peers in a rampage that lasted 5 minutes. Ethan Crumbley's trial was one of the most harrowing cases in recent years.
The Local 4 defenders obtaining these key photos from the Oxford school shooting. That is Ethan Crumbley's backpack on the bathroom floor where he first pulled this semi-automatic handgun. Sheriff's office! Yeah, we're here.
As the prosecution laid out the timeline of events, the courtroom was heavy with emotion. Parents of the victims sobbed quietly, clutching photos of their children, while others openly wept at the graphic details. The prosecutor played videos of Crumbley's planning and the shooting itself, prompting audible gasps from those in attendance. During the victim impact statements, the true weight of the tragedy unfolded. The father of Tate Meyer described the unbearable pain of losing his son, saying, "Tate was our everything. Now there's a hole in our family that can never be filled." Another mother spoke through tears, addressing Crumbley directly. "You destroyed our lives. My daughter will never graduate, never marry, never have children. She was only 17. Crumbley's demeanor throughout the proceedings was cold and emotionless. He showed no visible signs of remorse, a fact that deeply angered the victims' families. When it was his turn to speak, his apology fell flat. In a brief statement, Crumbley said, "I'm sorry for what I've done. I can't undo it, but I will try to make something of my life in prison." His words were met with silence, as many felt they lacked sincerity.
I'd like to thank you for letting me speak, Your Honor. We are all here because of me today, of what I did. My actions were because of what I chose to do.
I ran back to Tate because I didn't want to leave Tate for too long.
The judge sentenced Crumbley to life in prison without the possibility of parole, emphasizing the premeditated and heinous nature of his actions. The sentencing brought some measure of closure to the families, but the pain remained palpable. "He took 4 lives," one parent said. "This sentence ensures he'll never take another." In an unprecedented turn, Crumbley's parents, James and Jennifer Crumbley, were also charged with involuntary manslaughter. Prosecutors argued that their negligence, failing to secure the weapon, and ignoring clear warning signs of their son's behavior contributed to the tragedy. Evidence showed that Crumbley had sent disturbing texts to his mother about hearing voices, and yet no intervention was sought. The couple was arrested after fleeing authorities and later sentenced to 10 years in prison. Greg Ramos, In November 2018, 15-year-old Greg Ramos committed an act so cold and calculated, it shocked the nation. Ramos strangled his mother, Gail Clevenger, in their DeBary, Florida home, following a heated argument about his failing grades. Gail, a devoted mother and a professional architect, had reprimanded Ramos for lying about his academic performance, leading to the confrontation that escalated to tragedy. According to investigators, Ramos waited until his mother was asleep before launching the attack. Using his bare hands, he strangled her for approximately 30 minutes, later confessing to authorities that he felt nothing as he watched her die. The chilling nature of his confession revealed his complete lack of remorse during the act. "I didn't like what she was doing, so I ended it," Ramos reportedly said. What made the case even more unsettling was the methodical way Ramos tried to cover up his crime. He staged the home to look like a burglary by overturning furniture, scattering items, and creating the illusion of a break-in. With the help of two friends, Ramos loaded Gail's body into a van and buried her beneath a fire pit in a nearby churchyard. The friends, unaware of the true circumstances, initially believed Ramos's claim that the body belonged to someone who had broken into his home. Ramos's plan unraveled when police interrogated him. His story of a burglary gone wrong failed to align with evidence at the scene, and after hours of questioning, Ramos broke down and admitted to the murder. "She slapped me, and I lost it," he said during his confession, a statement that sent shockwaves through his small community.
"I just got home, and my house is completely trashed. It looks like someone broke in the side door.
I had a radio here, and I had an extension cord with an alarm clock, and then I had my $1,000 computer here."
In court, Ramos's lack of emotion was both disturbing and heartbreaking. Footage of his interrogation played during the trial, showing Ramos coldly recounting the murder with no sign of regret. He described how he staged the scene and even noted that he had thought about killing her earlier but waited for the right moment. The courtroom atmosphere shifted dramatically when family members addressed Ramos during the victim impact statements. Gail's husband, who had been out of town at the time of the murder, spoke directly to his son. "You took away the heart of this family," he said, his voice breaking. "You destroyed our lives for something so trivial. How could you do this to your mother?" Ramos sat expressionless, even as Gail's sister tearfully described the profound loss felt by the family. "She loved you more than anything in this world," she said, "and this is how you repaid her." The defense attempted to argue that Ramos acted out of teenage impulsivity and immaturity, but the prosecution painted a picture of premeditation and cold calculation. The lead prosecutor told the court this was not an act of passion. This was a deliberate, planned killing of a woman who trusted and loved her son unconditionally.
Dear Father, in the name of your Son Jesus, I ask you to keep his soul pure and close to you. And Father, please protect them from any bodily harm.
The judge sentenced Greg Ramos to 45 years in prison, with the possibility of parole after 25 years. "You will have decades to reflect on the gravity of your actions," the judge said. "But know this, the trauma you caused your family will last far longer than your sentence." Gail's friends and family expressed mixed feelings about the sentence. Some felt it offered Ramos an opportunity for redemption, while others believed that no punishment could adequately reflect the severity of his crime. "He's young, but he robbed his mother of her life and us of her love," one family member said. The case became a cautionary tale about youth violence and the warning signs often missed in troubled teens.
Abuse of a dead human body, tampering with physical evidence. You understand that?
Yes, Your Honor.
Did you do it?
Yes, Your Honor.
In the years since the murder, Gail's memory has been honored through community projects and scholarships in her name. Meanwhile, Ramos remains incarcerated, his potential parole decades away. The haunting nature of Ramos's crime continues to reverberate, with many asking how such a heinous act could come from someone so young. For the Clevenger family, the pain of Gail's loss is a wound that may never fully heal, compounded by the knowledge that her killer was someone she once held so dear.
The families of Dom and Davia, I'm so deeply sorry. I hope one day you can see I would never let this happen or do it on purpose. I wish I could remember what happened. I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken.
Mackenzie Sherilla. On a warm summer night in July 2022, Mackenzie Sherilla, a 17-year-old from Strongsville, Ohio, committed an act of unthinkable recklessness that cost 2 young lives. Sherilla, driving a Toyota Camry with her boyfriend Dominic Russo, 20, and their friend Davion Flanagan, 19, in the car, deliberately accelerated to over 100 mph before crashing into a brick building. The crash killed Russo and Flanagan instantly, while Sherilla survived with injuries to her legs. Prosecutors presented chilling evidence that the crash was not an accident. Data from the vehicle showed that Sherilla had pressed the gas pedal to its maximum, with no signs of braking or attempts to avoid the collision. Surveillance footage captured her driving moments before the crash, calmly making a right turn and then suddenly speeding up as if preparing for what was to come. Investigators found no mechanical issues with the car, confirming that the crash was an intentional act. What could drive a teenager to commit such a horrific act? Prosecutors argued that Sherilla, who had a tumultuous relationship with Russo, acted out of anger and revenge. Text messages revealed a strained relationship filled with jealousy and conflict. The prosecution labeled her actions as a mission of death, while her defense claimed that the crash was a tragic accident caused by inexperience and immaturity. The courtroom was a mix of heartbreak and outrage as the case unfolded. Family members of both Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan delivered emotional victim impact statements, painting a vivid picture of the loss they endured. Russo's brother spoke about the deep hole left in their family. Dominic was my best friend, the most selfless person I knew. Mackenzie took him from us in the most senseless way imaginable, he said, his voice trembling. Flanagan's sister added, Davion was the light of our family. He didn't deserve this. None of them did. Sherilla herself appeared tearful and remorseful during the trial. In a written statement read by her attorney, she said, I am so deeply sorry. I loved Dominic and Davion. I would never intentionally hurt them. I wish I could undo it all.
I'm just so sorry. I'm heartbroken. I love Dom and Davion. We were all friends and Dom was my soulmate. I wish I could take all your pain away, and I'm so sorry.
Despite her plea, her tears did little to sway the judge, who strongly condemned her actions. Judge Nancy Margaret Russo delivered a scathing rebuke during sentencing. This was no accident. The evidence is clear. You acted purposefully and intentionally. You chose to end these lives, and for that, you will face the consequences. The judge described the case as one of the most devastating she had ever presided over, emphasizing the premeditated nature of Sherilla's actions.
Mackenzie showed no mercy on Dominic, nor did she on Davion. Only God at this time can have mercy on her soul.
Mackenzie Sherilla was sentenced to 15 years to life in prison for the murders of Dominic Russo and Davion Flanagan. The judge's ruling meant she would not be eligible for parole until she had served at least 15 years, leaving the victims' families to wrestle with the bittersweet reality of justice served. As the sentence was read, members of the Russo and Flanagan families openly wept, holding onto each other for support. Outside the courtroom, Russo's mother told reporters, "No sentence will ever bring my son back, but at least she can't hurt anyone else." Flanagan's family echoed similar sentiments, expressing relief that Sherilla would be held accountable, but mourning the futures their loved ones would never have. The case sparked a broader conversation about teenage recklessness and the devastating consequences of impulsive decisions. It also left a lasting scar on the Strongsville community, where both victims were well-loved and had bright futures ahead of them. Sherilla's conviction marked a grim milestone in Ohio's legal history, serving as a warning about the deadly consequences of unchecked emotions and reckless behavior. While she will have the chance to seek parole in 15 years, the families of Russo and Flanagan face a lifetime of loss and grief, forever haunted by the actions of someone they once trusted.
A young convicted killer cries in court before learning his fate for the violent murder of his girlfriend's son.
Dylan Shoemaker. In March 2013, 16-year-old Dylan Shoemaker committed a heinous act that shocked the quiet community of Springville, New York. While babysitting his girlfriend's 23-month-old son, Austin, Shoemaker lost his temper and fatally beat the toddler. The child's mother had left for work, trusting Shoemaker to care for her son. However, instead of ensuring the child's safety, Shoemaker's frustrations turned violent. Austin, unable to stop crying, became the target of Shoemaker's rage. Medical examiners later testified that the toddler sustained severe head injuries consistent with being struck and shaken violently. Shoemaker initially called 911, claiming the child had stopped breathing, but the visible bruises on Austin's small body told a different story. First responders attempted to save the toddler, but his injuries were too severe, and he was pronounced dead at the hospital. The courtroom was tense as Dylan Shoemaker faced trial for second-degree murder. Prosecutors painted a harrowing picture of the abuse Austin endured in his final hours. Family members of the toddler sat in silent grief as Shoemaker's actions were laid bare. At his sentencing, Shoemaker made a dramatic attempt to gain sympathy. Tearfully addressing the court, he said, "I didn't mean to hurt Austin. I didn't. I can't take back what was done. I wish I could. I give my life for Austin." His outburst appeared heartfelt to some, but the prosecution revealed a darker side. The judge, William Baller, delivered a scathing response to Shoemaker's emotional display. He reminded the court of Shoemaker's earlier manipulative behavior, citing a recorded jail call where Shoemaker boasted to his mother, "I'm a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury and they'll feel sorry for me." Judge Baller made it clear he saw through Shoemaker's tears, describing them as crocodile tears designed to sway the court. "You continued to lie, even after the murder. Your actions were deliberate, and you must face the consequences," the judge said sternly. The judge's words struck a chord in the courtroom, reinforcing the gravity of Shoemaker's crime. Family members of Austin, devastated by the toddler's loss, expressed their heartbreak. "He was just a baby. He didn't deserve this," his grandmother said tearfully. Shoemaker, meanwhile, sat with his head in his hands, his earlier bravado stripped away. Dylan Shoemaker was sentenced to 25 years to life in prison for the murder of Austin. Judge Bowler emphasized that Shoemaker's actions showed a disregard for the life of an innocent child, and that his sentence reflected the severity of the crime. Outside the courtroom, Austin's family members expressed mixed emotions. "No sentence will bring him back, but at least there's justice for Austin," his aunt said, clutching a photo of the smiling toddler. The case became a grim reminder of the responsibilities that come with caregiving and the irreversible consequences of unchecked anger. Advocacy groups later used Austin's story to raise awareness about child abuse, urging communities to remain vigilant for signs of neglect and violence.
Isabella Guzman. She's accused of stabbing her mother 79 times.
Isabella Guzman. In 2013, a horrific domestic dispute in Aurora, Colorado, shocked the nation. Isabella Guzman, an 18-year-old, brutally stabbed her mother, Yoon Mi Hoi, over 150 times in the bathroom of their shared home. This gruesome attack stemmed from years of a strained relationship between Guzman and her mother. Reports revealed frequent arguments over discipline, curfews, and Guzman's general defiance. On the night of the murder, Guzman had an explosive argument with her mother, which escalated into a fatal attack. Witnesses, including Guzman's stepfather, heard horrifying screams and discovered Yoon Mi Hoi's lifeless body in the bathroom, covered in blood. The crime scene was so gruesome that investigators later described it as one of the most shocking they had ever encountered. Guzman fled the scene, but was arrested the following day in a parking lot after an extensive manhunt. The case quickly gained widespread attention due to its horrifying nature and the young age of the perpetrator.
Prosecutors say Isabella Guzman stabbed her mother 79 times in the family's bathroom last week.
Isabella Guzman now facing first-degree murder charges. She was charged with first-degree murder after stabbing her mom.
Guzman's courtroom appearances became infamous due to her bizarre and unsettling behavior. Footage captured her smirking, laughing, and making exaggerated facial expressions while the charges against her were being read. The cold demeanor led many to believe she lacked any remorse for her actions. For family members grieving the loss of Yoon Mi Hoi, Guzman's behavior in court was devastating. Her stepfather, who discovered Hoi's body, gave tearful testimony about the trauma of that night. He described hearing his wife's screams, the thud of her body falling, and the horrifying sight he encountered upon breaking into the bathroom. victim impact statements painted a picture of a loving, dedicated mother who had worked tirelessly to provide for her family, despite the challenges of a troubled relationship with her daughter. Relatives expressed both heartbreak and disbelief, struggling to comprehend how an argument could escalate into such senseless violence. The contrast between the raw grief of the family and Guzman's unsettling courtroom antics made the proceedings even more emotionally charged. Guzman's defense team introduced testimony from mental health experts who explained her behavior. According to their evaluations, Guzman suffered from untreated schizophrenia, which caused delusions and paranoia. They argued that her actions were not driven by malice, but by a severe mental health crisis. This revelation divided public opinion, with some sympathizing with Guzman's condition and others demanding stricter accountability for her actions. Following a psychiatric evaluation, Guzman was diagnosed with severe schizophrenia. The defense argued that Guzman had been suffering from untreated delusions that compelled her to commit the murder. As a result, the court found her not guilty because of insanity. Instead of prison, Guzman was sent to the Colorado Mental Health Institute, where she remains under psychiatric care, with periodic evaluations to determine her progress. The verdict sparked widespread debate, with some questioning whether justice was truly served. Critics argued that Guzman's diagnosis came too late and that her actions deserved harsher punishment. On the other hand, mental health advocates highlighted the importance of understanding mental illness in the context of violent crimes. Guzman's case remains a stark reminder of the complexities surrounding mental health, family dynamics, and the justice system. Kyandria Cook.
I was not myself when I did that, and I have since been restored to full health. If I could change it or if I could take it back, I would.
In December 2019, 18-year-old Kyandria Cook and her 17-year-old boyfriend, Kendrick Bass, orchestrated a violent robbery using a dating app called Meet Me. The plan was straightforward but sinister. Lure victims to a secluded location under the pretense of a date and then rob them. One of their targets, a young man, was ambushed when he arrived at the agreed meeting place. During the robbery, Bass fired a gun, seriously injuring the victim. The young man was rushed to the hospital in critical condition but survived the attack. The investigation quickly led to the arrests of Cook and Bass. Evidence included messages exchanged on the app and testimony from the victim. Cook initially claimed she did not know the violent intentions behind the robbery, portraying herself as a passive participant. However, prosecutors argued that she played an active role in setting up the meeting and was fully aware of the danger. In court, Cook's demeanor shifted dramatically. She broke down in tears as she addressed the victim's family, offering a heartfelt apology. "I'm sorry for what happened. I didn't mean for anyone to get hurt," Cook said, visibly shaking. She claimed that she was manipulated by her boyfriend and had no control over the situation. "I was at the wrong place at the wrong time," she pleaded. However, the victim's family was not swayed by her words. In a powerful impact statement, the victim's mother expressed her anger and heartbreak. "You didn't just hurt my son, you nearly took his life. And now, every time he looks in the mirror, he's reminded of what you and your boyfriend did to him." Her voice cracked as she added, "You don't get to call this a mistake when it was a choice." The victim himself addressed the court, detailing the physical and emotional scars he still carried. "I wake up every day reliving that moment, wondering if I'll ever feel safe again," he said. His testimony left many in the courtroom visibly emotional.
On June the 27th, how many times had you seen Mr. Scott?
I seen him 3 times.
And the times you saw him, were they face to face?
No, sir.
Cook's defense attorney painted her as a young woman caught up in a bad relationship, arguing for leniency due to her age and lack of a prior criminal record. The prosecution, however, emphasized her role in facilitating the crime, arguing that she knowingly lured the victim into a dangerous situation. The judge acknowledged Cook's remorse, but stressed the gravity of her actions. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment decision. "You actively participated in a crime that could have cost someone their life," the judge said before delivering the sentence. Cook was sentenced to 11 years in prison and followed by 20 years of probation. Kendrick Bass, the shooter, received a harsher sentence of 20 years behind bars. The case sparked conversations about the dangers of online platforms being exploited for criminal activities. It served as a cautionary tale for both users and law enforcement, highlighting the need for better safety measures on dating apps. Experts called for platforms to implement stricter identity verification processes to prevent similar crimes. For the victim and his family, the sentencing brought some closure but did little to ease their pain. I'm glad she's going to prison, but it doesn't take away what my son has been through, the victim's mother said outside the courthouse. Cook's case also raised questions about the influence of toxic relationships on young offenders. Advocates for criminal justice reform argued that her sentence should have included mandatory counseling and rehabilitation programs to address the root causes of her behavior. In November 2021, the small town of Fairfield, Iowa, was shaken by the brutal murder of 66-year-old Nohema Graber, a beloved high school Spanish teacher. The perpetrators were two of her students, 16-year-old Willard Miller and Jeremy Goodale. The motive, revenge over a bad grade. Graber, known for her dedication to her students, had stayed late after school to grade papers. She then went for her usual walk in Chautauqua Park. It was there that Miller and Goodale ambushed her. Evidence later revealed that the teenagers lured Graber to the park, attacked her with a baseball bat, and hid her body under a tarp, wheelbarrow, and railroad ties. The investigation began after Graber was reported missing. Police discovered her remains the next day and quickly connected Miller and Goodale to the crime through social media exchanges. Messages between the two revealed their detailed planning and gruesome descriptions of the attack. The chilling texts left no doubt about their intent, showing that they meticulously plotted Graber's murder as a form of retaliation for what they perceived as an unfair grade. The courtroom was a somber setting as the details of Graber's horrific murder were laid bare. Goodale, who had cooperated with investigators, provided a chilling confession during the trial. He described how the two had monitored Graber's routine and carried out the attack with shocking precision. "I struck her first, and then Willard joined in," he admitted, his voice devoid of emotion. The trial also included testimony from Graber's family, who delivered heartbreaking victim impact statements. Her son, Christian, spoke through tears about the profound loss of his mother. "She was the heart of our family, a beacon of love and kindness," he said. "The senseless cruelty of her death has left a void we will never fill." The judge did not mince words when addressing the convicted teens. "Your actions were calculated, premeditated, and carried out with a level of malice that defies comprehension," the judge said sternly. "You have shattered a family, a community, and the trust placed in you as young adults." Miller and Goodale both expressed remorse during their sentencing. "I deeply regret what I did," Miller said, his voice shaking. "I wish I could undo it and bring her back." Goodale echoed similar sentiments, claiming he was influenced by Miller and made a terrible decision. However, their words did little to ease the pain of Graber's family.
I'd like to take this opportunity to wholeheartedly accept responsibility for the role that I've played in the murder of Nohema Graber.
Both Miller and Goodale were tried as adults, reflecting the gravity of their crime. The judge sentenced them to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years, the minimum allowable under Iowa law for juveniles convicted of first-degree murder. The sentencing sparked debates about juvenile justice, with some arguing that the teens deserved harsher penalties, while others advocated for rehabilitation opportunities. For the Graber family, however, no sentence could compensate for their loss. "The damage they've done is permanent," Christian Graber said after the sentencing. "They took away a beautiful soul who gave everything to her students and community." The murder of Nohema Graber also had a lasting impact on Fairfield, a town once known for its close-knit community, now grappled with fear and grief. Students and staff at Fairfield High School struggled to process the reality that two classmates were capable of such violence. The school implemented grief counseling and organized memorials to honor Graber's life and legacy.
Certainly a high school junior who formulates a plan, or high schooler that formulates a plan with his friend, and murders a Spanish teacher.
The courtroom is where justice meets humanity's darkest moments. From teen killers seeking revenge to cold, calculated acts of violence, these cases reveal the raw pain endured by victims' families and the unrelenting pursuit of justice. While sentences bring closure, the wounds left behind are often permanent. Each case serves as a stark reminder of the consequences of unimaginable actions. Which case shocked you the most? Let us know in the comments, and if you enjoyed these cases, then watch our next ones shown on screen.